Hi, this is Wade Tolles. I'm a brand technical specialist for the IBM Engineering tools. And for the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to import a document into the Engineering Requirements Management tool, otherwise known as DOORS Next Gen. So the first thing we'll do is we'll start off in our quick start environment. And note that I have downloaded a document from the internet. It's just a standards document, a system document that's been created by a research service for the agriculture department. Again, nothing special about this document other than there are notations of different requirements types that we will import as requirements. But this is the document that we're going to be working with today. It has a number of images and charts and graphics and various things that can be imported into the document. So we'll start off with a browser window, and in that window we'll simply go to a project dashboard. We're going to log in as Pete, who is a default user with the Quick Start environment, and by default it will open up whatever project is the default project. Now within the tool itself there are a number of tools. What we're going to do is we're going to go in and we're going to select the Engineering Requirements Management tool, and we're going to select the demo project. Something that's to note is that when you open up a project, that project will be grayed out in your list of projects. So you'll note there are many blue projects, but the one that we're working in is a gray project, which is a little counterintuitive. You'd think that all the non-projects would be gray and the one you're in would be blue, but that's not how it works. It's going to be the gray one. So we're in the demo project currently. There have been a number of recent changes we can see. There are no comments or reviews. And this is the work team. I'm the only one in the project right now. First thing we'll note is if we look at the Artifacts tab, we will be in the Modules section. There is a template, use case specification template for a module. Other than that, there are no artifacts within this particular project. But what we have done is gone into the settings and prepared for the document import. What do we mean by that? Well, if we look at the document again, note that there are a number of types of artifacts that we have to be aware of. For example, metadata availability. There's a MA acronym, and for hardware requirements, there's an HR acronym, and so forth. There are other acronyms for various types of requirements or information within that document. So to be able to import those types into a module, you have to be able to identify them so that the tool can recognize them. To do so is very easy. You simply go into the Manage Project area and you create those types if they don't already exist. To do so, you simply create a new type and then you identify that type and save it. Now I've already created those types to save time, but that's the extent. Now the other thing that we'll recognize is that the type of document that we're going to import, and this is just a convenience thing, is called a Systems Requirement Specification. Now if that type of document does not exist within your requirements project, you can also create that. Now the difference between the overall document type and the individual requirement type is that the artifact format is a module versus the other types being text. So just something to be aware of, that we've prepared this project to be able to import this document very easily so that all the information comes through and looks the way it's supposed to. We'll go back to the artifacts view now, and we'll go ahead and import that document. To import the document, you select a folder, which could be any of these, but we're going to use the default folder. You select the drop down to the right of the folder and go to Create Artifact. From within Create Artifact, you import an artifact. Now we're going to create our module by importing that document. you have several options, whether it's a text document, a CSV, or spreadsheet file, or a requirements interchange format. For example, if you're importing requirements from Classic Doors or another requirements tool that supports the requirements interchange format. We're going to select Import Requirements from within a text document. The next thing we'll do is we will add the file that we will be importing. The name of the file that we're importing is the stewards document. And then we identify what we want to import. In this case, we want to import and create a module. Typically from a document, you'll want to create a module because documents are notoriously non-standard, meaning whatever your current document format is most likely very different from everyone else's. So not having a format, it's easiest to go ahead and import as general artifacts, such as headings, supporting text, images, and requirements. So we'll go ahead and import as a module, not as just requirements. The name or the location of the document can be wherever we want it to be. In this case, we're going to leave it in the default folder. And then the artifact type, we're going to select the system requirement specification type. Once we've identified our requirements type, we're going to go ahead and the name of the document, we're going to use the source name. Once we've identified the basic information about the document, we'll go to what we want imported and where. So for headings, we want to go ahead and import headings as a module heading. For images, we're going to go ahead and select image. For keywords, we're not really looking for the entire word here. We're actually looking for the acronym because that's what delineates within our document where those requirements are. So we'll go ahead and copy that. And just in case there's something with those letters together, we're going to include a non-character, a non-textual character that identifies actually that is a header, or rather a requirement type, not part of a word. So we'll use UCC dash, the entire paragraph, and then that will be our user classification. And we'll do that for each of our requirement types. Operating environment being OE dash. And so on. And as you can see, we've gone through and we've created keywords for each of our identified requirements types. As we mentioned earlier, text delimiters or commas, semicolons, etc. And in this type of document, we would not use that as a delimiter. And all other text is anything that's not referenced. So what we'll say is that any other text is going to be a supporting resource. We click Next, and the tool will then go through and identify the artifacts that we've isolated or which we've described options for. So we can see here that we have a number of headings and functional requirements and detailed requirements, etc. If we review our warning here, it shows that there were a couple of items that it didn't recognize. For example, there was a shape converted to an image, drawings were converted to images, word art converted to an image, and another BMP type image was converted. So that's okay because they are images, and we'll go ahead and close that warning. We click Finish, and the tool will show us success. As we click Close, we can then note that within our modules, we have the stewards document. And if we review our document, we'll see that it looks very similar to our Word document. has a table of contents. Basically, everything that was within the document has been imported into the tool. Now, within the document, we have headers, of course, and we have subheadings, and then we have our acronyms, which define what our requirement types are. Within our requirements document, however, if we scroll down, we also have headers, and we have images, and we have subheaders. But note that the type is identified here as a heading. Everywhere there was a heading, there is a header. If there is a paragraph that is not a requirement type, we'll note that that is a supporting resource. So each item has been brought in as its respective type. Now, if we scroll down, we can note that our requirements types, which we define, for example, in this case, the design and implementation constraints, if we click that, we actually have a type of constraints. So as we created those types, they were brought in based on the keyword FR, or whatever the key, based on whatever the keyword was. So the next thing we can do, if we'd like, is we can save this particular view as a base view, because that's a basic view of our information. Now we can actually go through and filter based on whatever we want to see within the project. For example, if we're looking for our functional requirements, we can click on Artifact Type and select our functional requirements, and then we can actually review our functional requirements. So each one of these items, these line items, came through as a functional requirement. Now, interesting to note is that the headers for the functional requirements and all of these types also will come through, because they are identified at a high level with the FR- header or notation. So what we're going to do is we can actually go in and we can identify anything that is not a requirement, and we can change that. And we can actually make those a different type. For example, in these cases, we're going to edit the attribute, and instead of a functional requirement type, we're going to change that to a heading. Now, note that each one of these headings is identified as such. Instead of a requirement type, we actually have these identified within the tool as headings. Hope this was helpful. That completes the demonstration of importing a document into the tool today. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact me at kenneth.tools@ibm.com.